Hello, my name is John Camm and I'm here at the last day of a really great EHRA 2019 Congress here in Lisbon, and I'm talking with my colleague Isabelle Van Gelder. Isabelle, we've had a really wonderful time at the Congress. What has really stuck out with you about good contributions here?
Well, there are several, of course, and let's start with the Apple Watch, because we had a Meet the Trialist meeting yesterday morning, and I think it is an important study. It was a late breaker at the ACC, and they were able to include in only 8 months' time over 400 people.
400,000?
400,000, sorry. And especially were younger, and I guess because they had the Apple Watch, wealthy people. And only a minority was over 65 years of age. And what they want to test, to assess, was whether it was able to detect atrial fibrillation. And I think they all had the Apple Watch, and as they received a notification of an irregular rhythm, they were sent a patch that took some time, 6 days, and then they wore the patch for about 2 weeks. And that patch was able to detect atrial fibrillation about 1/3 of the people. So I think it is probably it is the future, the Apple Watch and devices like that. Because it is, it could detect irregular rhythm, but at the same time it took some days before the patch also detected atrial fibrillation, only in 34% of the cases. Of course, that was because in many it was paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, so at the very moment they wore the patch, it was not present anymore, atrial fibrillation. There was a second analysis comparing the patch and at that moment the Apple Watch as well, and then it was 84%. So the Apple Watch actually did pretty well.
The watch did pretty well, but of course the population was largely a young population.
So only 0.5% had those irregular notifications.
0.5%, and of those, I think you said the patch confirmed atrial fibrillation about 30% or so.
Yeah, 1/3, yeah, right.
But if they did more recording, they could confirm it in a larger proportion.
Yeah, right.
So are you worried that you're going to have lots of calls from people with Apple Watches?
Well, I'm not so sure what's happening in Holland, or I'm from Holland, of course, but in Europe we are completely different from the United States. It may happen, but I think saying that, there are two disadvantages now. It is people become anxious, they are busy with their rhythm, it is their heart, so they really become anxious, I think. And also for us doctors in the healthcare system, we are not ready to deal with such a workload.
No, we have to think it through very carefully, how we're going to handle this volume of information and what it means.
And what it actually
we don't
means.
Really understand what it means.
Whether it really has the same risk as clinical detected atrial fibrillation, we do not know. We know that from all those ICD and pacemaker studies. So, well.
Well, I want to change the subject a little bit. Even this morning, we had frequent mention in the sessions about the Cabana study. It surprises me how this comes up and up and up. What's your take on Cabana?
Well, Cabana, finally it is published 10 months after the first presentation. Everybody was awaiting. I think it is a very important trial. It included over 2,000 patients, well performed. Of course, there are some limitations of the trial. It confirms that atrial fibrillation ablation in that population, both paroxysmal and persistent atrial fibrillation patients, not so old, but also not so young, is safe. That is an important take-home message. So many centers contributed all over the world. Of course, in the patients with the ablation, the primary endpoint was not met. That's for me also clear. No discussion, the per protocol analysis, that is all, well, like post hoc analysis and only hypothesis generating for me. Important is that there were less hospitalizations in the ablation group. It was safe, but what I also learned from this trial was that in the end, after 4 years of follow-up, about 50% of the patients experience a recurrent episode of atrial fibrillation. And I think that is also of importance. And saying that, I think we also have to focus on how we can improve the procedure.
Yeah, I think it really emphasizes that there's further to go. We haven't yet got a really definitive study that tells us that we can reduce the hard endpoints associated with atrial fibrillation. It tells us that we need probably to consider hybrid approaches to management, not just ablation and so on.
I completely agree. And if you say hybrid, I very much like that word. Not only maybe we combine it as antiarrhythmic drug treatment, but we should also combine it with risk factor management. And I think that is also, and I think we should work together more. It is not only the ablationists and the cardiologists or so, and the heart failure specialists. We have to work together on this issue. And well, for example, I saw an important study from Korea and showing that if you reduce, especially in the young, the population below 70 years, it had benefit on dementia, so that's more or less a hard outcome. It did not have a benefit in the elderly. So I think hybrid therapy, and also including risk factors.
And that's another point that keeps coming through, that we have to start management early, so that we stand some chance of being able to be successful.
I completely agree.
Preventing AF and preventing all the consequences of atrial fibrillation.
So if we then come back to the Apple Watch study, so to say, those patients who show up with atrial fibrillation in the end, they are early AF patients. They have to visit a doctor, cardiologist, whatever, depending on the country, and they have to have a real checkup for comorbidities and things like that. And then so in the end, it will be helpful to.
Was there any very impressive study with basic science, animals, and so on and so forth? I think I heard you.
I like one study. It is from the group of Press Sanders, all the way from Australia. They were here again. We were very happy, of course. And it were in spontaneous hypertensive obese rats. So that are our atrial fibrillation patients, so to say. And there was a new drug, only of course now being given in animals. And that reduced the salt intake, the salt absorption in the gut. And they did a randomized trial, very elegant, and what they showed was the blood pressure was lower in the rats with that new drug. There was also less inducibility of atrial fibrillation, also the duration was shorter, less atrial remodeling, and the atrial function was more preserved in those rats being treated with that new drug.
Well, that's what I'd like to hear, some brand new ideas and new approaches to the whole problem. And I think it summarizes what we've been hearing here at EHRA 2019. We've been trying to put in order all of the therapies that we already have, but there are some new bright ideas, and that's what really stimulates us to come to these meetings and really enjoy what we hear.
Exactly.